Hello, listeners. Welcome to this evening's edition of Unlocking Your Truth with Dr. Leslie and with Corey.
Hello, everybody.
Unlocking Your Truth is a talk show about metaphysics and spirituality. And every week we have a different topic under that general umbrella. Unlocking Your Truth is a radio show and a podcast, and we broadcast on Tuesday evenings from 7 to 8 p.m. Pacific time across the Fraser Valley in BC from CIVL, and CIVL is on 101.7 FM, and they are based on the unceded territory of the Stolo Nation.
Yes, they are.
But the podcast is available on all the major podcasting platforms, and you can also go to drlesliephillips.com and listen to all the back episodes if you want to. It take you a very long time because there's lots of them. And then finally, if you enjoy the show and you would like to take part, if you'd like to participate in the show, it's really easy to do. You just have to become a member of the Awaken Your Psychic Abilities Facebook group or follow my YouTube channel, and I'm Dr. Leslie Phillips. And then just come along at 7 o'clock on a Tuesday evening, Pacific time, and you will find that we are there live, pre-recording the show. And that way we get to take your questions live, and you get to share your thoughts, make comments and things like that. So tonight, the show is on affirmations, and specifically affirmations for manifestation purposes. So I thought perhaps we should just start with a definition of what is an affirmation in the first place. And an affirmation is a positive assertion. It's something that you are saying or thinking to cement something in your consciousness. And they are used as a tool to help you shift. So, and they can be used as a statement to either reinforce a belief and amplify a belief, or to change a belief. And the general purpose being so that you can attract more of what you want. So from my perspective, affirmations are really interlocked with your beliefs and your belief system, because you have to believe what you're saying. If you don't believe what you're saying, then the affirmation is just empty words. So let's take a few examples. Let's say that you are somebody who doesn't have a lot of money, and you've been struggling with that for a long time. If you decide to say an affirmation that's something like, I always have enough money, then you might find some kind of cognitive dissonance going on. Because while you might be saying, well, I always have enough money, are you really, really believing that as a statement? Or is that so far from your everyday life and personal experience that it just, you're saying the words, but at the same time, you're really not feeling it. You're really not believing it. So you have to find a statement that will work for you, given where you are and given your belief structure. So somebody like that might say something like, I'm worthy of abundance, or I have everything I need within me. I have everything I need within me to create abundance. And that might be an easier step. I have everything within me to create abundance.
Yeah, I think the key word you just used there is step. right? I think like affirmations are a way of getting into that belief.
They are, aren't they? They are a step. They are a mechanism for shifting you from A, where you are, and B, where you want to get to. So people might could use them for things like manifestation or really anything. There's a really old but famous book by Louise Hay called You Can Heal Your Life, and it's focusing more on health. But for every health condition, she has a positive affirmation that's suggested for the person to say to help them transform that health condition. So for example, she looks at all the health conditions and says, well, in a general way, underlying this particular health condition is this particular issue. So for example, if you have problems with your gallbladder, her idea is that can be resentment. And so her affirmation would be something that helps shift that resentment, which is the underlying energy that's led to the physical issue. So if you are in a situation where you're resenting somebody or you're resenting a situation and you don't want to give that up, again, you could be saying the affirmation, but really is your energy matching the affirmation? Because your energy has to match the affirmation. It can't just be empty words. So if you're saying, I attract abundance, everything in your being has to be in that positive vibration and the belief that that is the case. Because that's what determines the energy that you're putting out. And the energy that you're putting out is what determines what the universe reflects back at you. Okay, so they can't just be empty words. So an affirmation can be a really good tool, but it really depends on you and how you're using the tool. It can't just be a band-aid that you put on top and say, I don't like my life, so I'm going to say these words over and over again to change my life. Because if you're not prepared to change the fundamental framework of beliefs that resulted in you creating that life in the first place, it probably won't change. So it has to go deeper than the words. It has to go into the belief system. Because I think you can imagine, can't you, saying a phrase over and over again. Let's see. I gain money effortlessly. I gain money effortlessly. I gain money effortlessly, right? And you could see a situation where you were saying that and you really believe it with every fiber of your being. That's going to work for you. But if you repeat that over and over again, I gain money effortlessly, but you're really not believing it, there's not a matching vibration there.
Also, the universe likes specificity. Did I say that right?
Specificity.
Specificity.
Well, we can have a discussion about that. Because if you think about, let's take a classic. Somebody who broke up with their boyfriend and they want their boyfriend to come back. And so, I don't know, let's say they decide to do affirmations, and they say, I don't know, Johnny is in love with me and comes back. Right? So that's very specific. what's very specific about it is it's specific with respect to one person. And what the person who's saying the affirmation really wants, they want a loving, supportive relationship that brings them happiness and really brings the other person happiness. So if you limit it, if you're specific to Johnny, you have infinitely reduced the potentials that could come to you. You have infinitely rejected all of the different ways that the universe could bring love into your life, because you're saying, I want Johnny. But meanwhile, Johnny has free will and Johnny might not want that. And so you have kicked yourself in the foot by being specific in that example.
Yeah, I was thinking about the one about I get money effortlessly. That could mean anything, walking down the street to finding a penny, well, a nickel on the street, because we don't do pennies anymore, finding a nickel on the street and picking that up. You found money effortlessly.
Right. Yeah. And then you see, you find the penny effortlessly on the street. And so what do? Do you go, fantastic, it's working, I can't wait for more to come to me? Or do you go, well, it's just a penny. Oh, of course, I'm only just going to get a penny.
Exactly.
So it's all, ultimately, it's down to you. It's down to your thoughts and your beliefs and your feelings and your biases and your energy vibration. So the affirmation isn't magic. It is a tool, but it is a tool that has to be used appropriately. And appropriately means really self-examination, okay? So let's say you're a shy person and you want to do public speaking. So maybe you say, I'm confident and courageous as an affirmation. So you need to just really tune into that, I'm confident and courageous, and feel within yourself, are you in alignment with that statement? I'm confident and courageous. Are you? Can you believe it? Do you believe it? Or are you still running off of the program that I am shy and I am afraid of public speaking? Because you can't just slap and force the affirmation on top of that, right? You have to shift your belief. You have to shift your feeling. You have to become the affirmation in your energy. So I think affirmations are good tools with the potential to be misunderstood and misused. And the reason is, in order to manifest what you want, there can be some deeper self-examination that's required.
Yeah, Doctor, I can't remember if it was Wayne Dyer or Neil Donald Walsh that said it about like health. He says his affirmation is not to be healed of everything, but to be in a natural, he says that human beings, their natural state of being is healthy. So what he used to say was he was looking for a continuous natural state of health.
Yes.
Yeah, it's all depends on, all depends on how and what you say, eh?
Or really to be in alignment with your higher being. What better affirmation for that could there be? I'm in alignment with my higher being.
True.
Because then you are authentically you, authentically your energy, and creating what is everything that's in alignment with that.
What's the best for you?
Right. And so, you know, it's funny, we're talking about affirmations, and I would say personally, I don't really use them because I use other tools. And I think, but I think the principle is you've got to really feel how in alignment you are with what you're asking for. And you can feel within yourself if you're not. And if you're not, then you need to do something about that. And so normally what I would do is use my energy tools, my meditation techniques, to help me shift the belief, which is working directly with the out of alignment energy. And that's the way I would teach people to make that shift within themselves. I think it's possible for you to make a statement like an affirmation and for that to happen. But I think it's also possible for you to say the affirmation and that not to happen. Because if you're not deeply examining yourself and you're just, you know, like I said, slapping the Band-Aid on top, you need to really tune into your energy and how you truly feel about what it is that you're asking for. So if you're asking for love, and then, you know, you get quiet and you really feel into yourself, and it's like, well, what comes up? Because if you're sitting there and you feel like a loving being, like you are loving and you are offering love, and you're magnetic to love and you believe in love, great. But if you're asking for love and you close your eyes and you say, okay, well, how in alignment with that am I? And you say, well, I feel unworthy. I feel ugly. I feel nobody understands me. And then if you start to uncover a stack of beliefs like that, then there's your work. You have to turn those beliefs around. You have to turn those beliefs around. And so
Words have power. Words have power.
they do. They do. And an affirmation is made of words. So maybe we can talk about that when we come back from the break.
Sounds great. Welcome back, everybody.
Welcome back to Unlocking Your Truth with Dr. Leslie and Corey, talking about affirmations. And Corey made a statement before the break. He said, words have power. Words do have power. Words also are charged, they're charged with energy. And that energy can be positive or negative. So one of the most charged words in the English language is the word God. And most people are not neutral about the word God. For many people, that word actually has a negative charge, especially if they've been brought up in some kind of a religious upbringing that's been very authoritarian to them, you know, then that word, so an affirmation that included the word God, however well it was meant, wouldn't work for that person unless they had neutralized or taken the negativity out of the word. So let's use it. Let's say your affirmation is, I am lovable. But let's also say when you were growing up, your mother said to you over and over again, you're just not lovable. How can you be like that? You're not lovable. You're not lovable, 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 lovable. And that word lovable was delivered with negativity. So you grow up to someone where that word lovable doesn't work for you, because it's a powerful word, but it's a negatively charged, powerful word. So you have to choose the words that you use in your affirmation quite carefully, and or find a way to neutralize or de-energize the negativity out of a word that you're wanting to use, right? So that person couldn't use the word lovable. Because it has a different meaning to them. The meaning is, my mother stabbed me in the heart every time she said the word lovable. So, folks, we're talking about affirmations, and I wonder, for the people who are listening live, if they would like to write down some things about what they'd like to manifest, and we'll see if we can have some fun with coming up with some affirmations.
So, Dr. Leslie, would you consider a vision board a form of affirmations?
It's a good question, isn't it? I tend to think of an affirmation being something that's verbally stated, but a vision board is a kind of affirmation, and I think it's actually a more powerful one, because it's evocative of, I mean, it's full of imagery. It's evocative of an energy and situation that you are seeking. So yeah, I think you could say that it's a kind of energetic affirmation. You are making an energetic statement, and you are putting a certain energy out and asking that that energy be reflected back at you. I suppose we might say it's a manifestation technique, but we could also say an affirmation is a manifestation technique, couldn't we?
I'm sorry, what was the last one?
I said a vision board is a manifestation technique, but we could also say an affirmation is a manifestation technique.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
I think vision boards, I think vision boards can rate as an affirmation because every time you look at it, you're literally talking to yourself, right? When you see that.
Yes, and I think it starts to help you shift your energy into the feeling of what you're asking for. It makes it more tangible, because now you've created a physical representation. So in some senses, maybe a vision board could be more powerful than an affirmation, because in the affirmation you could say, I am capable of success, or I have a successful life. But what does that mean? The vision board might show a relationship, a beautiful home, whatever your definition of success, or the kind of success that you are wanting to bring into your life. Now it's made more tangible.
I think also one of the things that's important with affirmation is to have it in the present tense, is I have, or I'm enjoying, or I'm, so that gives you that gives you a more true sensation of that thing that you're looking for, that thing that you're trying to achieve.
Yeah, I agree, because if you use the present tense, then the idea is you are creating that energy now. if you use the future tense, you're basically saying, I am not that energy now, but I will be one day. I'm not that energy now, but I will be one day. And so you're holding what you're trying to manifest at bay. So you have to be the energy now in order to be the attractor and receiver.
Now you're creating the energy of the want as opposed to the have, which I think is you're trying to get away from that want energy, like
right, because if you want it or you need it, that's making a statement you don't have it yet.
Or Sherry Hubert used to say, be like for love, be the one you're trying to find, not be the one in the future you're trying to find, or be the one, like in the past that you're trying to find, but be the one right now that you're trying to find when it comes to love, looking for that relationship.
Well, you can only experience in the world what you are. You attract what you are. So you can't say, I want a loving, supportive person in my life. Well, you can say it, but if you're not being it, you won't get that reflection. You won't get the reflection of what you're being.
Very true. That's one of the things Dr. Leslie gives me a hard time for, in a way, is we talk about friends. We don't have a large circle of friends. We have a large circle of acquaintances. Like I say, if you want good friends in your life, be a good friend, and you will get good friends, because you will attract those people, that type of person in your life.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we got a couple of comments here, Dr. Leslie.
Okay.
To start off, from Rosa Maria. Remembering the word abundance can be vague or not quite clear. We might end up with an abundance of toilet paper.
Right, or an abundance of lack.
Not that would
of abuse.
Yeah. Not that toilet that would be bad at all, but or an abundance of spoons when all you need is a knife.
It's true, isn't it? You always have this is an abundant universe. This is an abundant world.
Oh,
You
yeah.
always have an abundance of something, even if it's an abundance of lack. So there's no problem with abundance, but yes, you need to be specific in that sense of I want an abundance of love, not an abundance of hate. I want an abundance of wealth, not an abundance of lack. Absolutely.
And since we live in a universe or reality of dualities, that holds true for what you're looking for too. Like Dr. Leslie, like you just said, I want an abundance of love, but you can get an abundance of love with somebody being smothering as well. So clarity is quite important. That's where the words come in. That's where the strength of the words come in, because I'm sure most people here have had that situation where they ask for something or they put it out there and they get it, but it's not what they were looking for at all. It wasn't even close, or just the opposite. They were given a hard time. Like you have to be very specific, because the universe will give you what you're looking for. It works. It's real. Yeah. It's real. Karina said, sorry, go ahead.
Like, be specific, but also be open enough that you're opening yourself up to different possibilities that you might not have been able to think of.
Yeah, I think a good one, but yet one that is overused, is the relationship list. The new man or the new woman. It's usually a new man, because men don't do it generally. But the man you're looking for, the list of the man you're looking for, and you got 100 things on your list of what this man is going to be like. And I'm not trying to be the chauvinistic in any way. It's just guys don't tend to do that, or most of the guys I know don't. And so you get a list of 100 things, and you meet somebody, and one of those things isn't real. Like, instead of dark brown hair, he's got black hair, and you go, oh, that's not the guy I'm looking for. I'm waiting for the the dark brown, the brown haired guy, or whichever way it is.
Exactly. Yeah. He might be just the most brilliant match for you, but not, so yes, you've got to have a little bit of lassitude. Is that a word?
Yeah, latitude.
Lassitude.
And the reason I say that is I have we both, Dr. Leslie and I, have a friend who's looking for a relationship, and she's been looking for a relationship for years, and she never meets any guys. There's never any nice guys in her life from her point of view, because she has this list. But the people that I've seen her around her, the men that were interested in furthering some form of relationship, some wonderful, wonderful men. And she just doesn't see them. They're not there. That's the other thing you want to do when you're putting out an affirmation, putting out affirmations, using affirmations to manifest something in your life. When it comes, be open to recognizing it, because a lot of us, it just seems to go by because it's not the exact list. So I had a friend of mine who wanted a new car, and they wanted a new car. They wanted a new car. They didn't have the money for a car. They wanted a new car. And one of my other friends was buying a new car, and he had his old car. So he said, well, I'll give you this car. And she went, oh, no, I was looking for a new car. Seriously, I'm looking for a new car. So she didn't accept the gift of this car, which was a perfectly reasonable vehicle that she would have got for nothing, and waiting for a new car. Guess what? She never got that new car. It never came to her. It's interesting. I find it interesting.
Yeah, she didn't take a step in the direction of the flow that she was asking for. Yeah, she blocked it.
Yeah. So this is from Karina. Karina says, so asking for a specific person is not the way to go.
I don't believe so, because here's the thing. Let's say you specifically want John. And so but if instead of asking for John, you ask for the most loving, supportive relationship that's possible for me, and John is a match for that, and John is someone in your close vicinity, then the odds are the universe will match you up with John. Okay. But if the opposite is true, and John isn't a match for what you're asking for, and you specified John, you've just done what the lady with the car did. You've blocked yourself from the other potentials and possibilities. So leaving it open doesn't mean that it can't be John. It means it could be, or it could be any other number of wonderful matches for you.
Yeah. I used to work with a company, and we had coaching programs. And one of the things the coach used to say when it came to abundance and things like that, he says, you can have different levels, well, not abundance, but manifestation. He says, you can have different levels of manifestation or desires in manifestation. You can have regular ones like, I'd really want somebody to cook me a really nice dinner, something like that, which is more or less a simple one, but yet it's still a manifestation, right? And then a more difficult one, I'd like to go on a nice trip to Bahamas, Hawaii, Mexico. So always, but then he says, then have what he calls a universe manifestation. That is something that was almost impossible to get. Like, somebody's going to give me a house, somebody's going to give me a car, somebody's something like that, like, and he says, put that out there as well. And he says, you know what? May not happen. However, it may just happen. We work with a group out of Hawaii, that the manifestation group out of Hawaii, and this couple that was down there, they were talking, and they put out a manifestation for, they wanted a house that was near the beach, and a business as well. The only problem is they had nothing. They had no money or anything like that. Well, after being in this group for, I think it was about 4 months, somebody came up to them and said they were going away for a long term, and asked them if they'd like to stay in their house for nothing, right by the beach. And it was a bed and breakfast. Would they like to take over the bed and breakfast? And the income would go into their pockets. You look at that and you go, things like that can happen, but you have to put it out there.
But they weren't specific. They didn't know that that would be the form that would come. That was a form that they never could have imagined.
Exactly.
Could happen.
Oh yeah, it's astounding. But you have to be open to it. You have to, and then when it comes, accept it. Even if it's not perfect, accept it and keep asking for one that's more perfect. The universe doesn't say you can only have one of everything. Right, Dr. Leslie?
Yeah.
Guess what? It's time for a break.
I know. So after we get back from the break, folks, it's time for us to answer your questions. So if you're in the live audience, then get typing, type your questions and your comments and your stories about affirmations that you would like to share. Have you ever used affirmations? Were they successful for you? Let us know in the chat. Welcome back, everyone, to Unlocking Your Truth with Dr. Leslie. Today's show is all about affirmations, and it's that time in the show where we're open to your questions and your comments and your stories that you would like to share.
Do you have anything, Dr. Leslie, in your life that you've sort of put something out there and received? Something unusual, something different? As far as an answer to an affirmation,
I think I'm a really good manifester, and if I know what it is that I want, then I manifest it. I can tell you a story about making a list about wanting a relationship many years ago, and I put on it that this person will own property in they will have property in other countries. Fancied going on holiday, and I met somebody who had to leave a country in a hurry, and their belongings were there. So the definition of property, I wasn't quite specific on that. That's the funny one.
It was, yeah. I think my favorite one is, I was looking. I was living in an apartment, and the bed was in kitty corner in the this new apartment. And what I wanted to do was make a shelf, so that it was a small apartment, so that I could have stuff on the shelf behind the bed, and then storage underneath the shelf in the back, so nobody would see it that way. So I needed a piece of plywood cut, and I went to the local building stores and things like that and asked if they could cut a diagonal piece of plywood, because I didn't have a saw or anything like that. And things along those lines, and nobody could cut it diagonally, so it was a no. And then I was walking down the street with someone, and about 2 blocks from the apartment, and I saw a few pieces of wood across the road, and it was one said, well, first of all, I said, well, we can't get it that way, but one will show up. And not a couple of days later, walking down the street, and there was some plywood, and I went over and took a look. The exact piece of wood I required, the triangle in the exact dimensions, 2 blocks from the house, and I could just carry it home and use it. It was like, like mind blowing. That was my favorite one because it was tangible. It was a real tangible experience of manifestations being brought forth. This is from May. I just realized why my empowerment statements don't work. Wrong words.
Give us an example, May.
Yeah, come on, May, share. Yeah. Why
Use
isn't it working? That's all I've got from our audience for now.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Well, maybe we should say an affirmation that our audience is chatty. Our audience is chatty. Our audience has questions. Our audience has questions. So folks, you don't have to ask about what we've talked about. If there's something else you want to ask about, go ahead. It's your time. You can ask about anything that you'd like to ask about. So
Karina says, I was using future tense verbs so wrong.
Ah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. The future never comes.
Yeah, you keep it in the future.
Yeah, the future never comes. And that want word, and that need word are very dangerous as well. Because when you focus on the want, like when you're saying, like I want something or other, the want is the structure. The universe is giving you the want and continues giving you the want. Also, May says, my knees are healthy and work perfectly.
Saw that. I said, well, okay, what's the problem with that? And I think the problem with that is every time your knee hurts, you go, oof, and you prove yourself wrong. So maybe a statement like, my knees are improving. My knees are improving. My knees are improving. Rather than they work perfectly. Because so see how that sits. My knees, the health of my knees is improving. The health of my knees is improving.
Yeah, it's weird because it's a fine line, or it's a fine line. And I always like the joke I heard about manifestation and abundance, and works with affirmations. This fella, he's out of work, and so he's looking for a job, and he looks through his listings, and he finds his job, goes to the interview, and it's the perfect job for him. He loves it. He's there on Tuesday. He's there on time. He meets the interviewer. Everything's going well. The interviewer likes him, and he just feels so good about this. He goes home, and he's going to get a call back by Friday at 2:00. And this is what the interview told her. And he says, keep positive. And, he's just going, and Wednesday rolls around, Thursday rolls around, and he's going, like, yeah, I'm going to get that job. That's my job, and getting that job. And then comes 2:00, he gets the phone call, and he didn't get the job. He hangs up the phone, and he goes, I knew I wasn't going to get that job. In his heart of hearts, he says, I knew I wasn't going to get that job. You have to be sold. You have to sell yourself. Whatever it takes to sell yourself. Right, Dr. Leslie?
Yeah, you have to really, it has to be absolute belief.
Yeah. And then you have to grab it when it comes by the shoulder. I don't know if that means anything to you, Dr. Leslie, but it does to me. Don't let it get past you. Okay, this is from Brian. Brian says, manifestation works well when you are detached, but say someone needs money and they are in a dire situation like facing eviction or debt or something and trying to believe they can manifest money, yet the reality of their bank account being empty, it creates quite an issue trying to manifest and trying to believe it. Can I answer this one, Doctor? Oh, you go ahead. I've got a response for that one too.
I know somebody exactly like that who actually was facing both of those things and more. And they manifested people giving them money out of the blue. They even manifested someone who was offering them a home. And so I think on the one hand, yes, it really depends on you. You can be in that situation and turn it around pretty quickly, but it depends on you and your energy. But I've definitely seen people in that kind of a situation where they feel at the depths of despair, and then all of a sudden the universe bestows gifts upon them.
Yeah, I have a good friend of mine. Years ago, we were actually both out of work and not a lot of money was coming in. And she had her rent due. It was 5 days before her rent was due. Actually, sorry, 3 days before her rent was due. And uh, she called me and we talked, and she says, "Let's do a manifestation, of abundance. Let's get together and work on this together." So I went down, we sat there and we're talking about it and just thought positively about it and just really worked on it and meditated in the whole 9 yards. And then I went home, and the next morning she got a phone call from somebody she hadn't heard from in over 5 years, an old friend of hers, and said, "Well, we got to get together." And she told this her friend, her other friend, she said, "I'd love to." She said, "But I've been well, come down and stay with us for a couple of days in our new place up in the country." And she said, "I'd love to." She says, "But I can't." She says, "The truth is, I'm out of work. I don't have money for rent, and I have to come up with the money for rent somehow, somewhere, some way." And she says, "How much is your rent?" And she told her it was $750. And she said, "That's not a problem." She says, "Tell you what, we'll give you we'll give you 3 months worth of rent." And she got 3 months worth of rent from this lady, and went and spent the weekend, and just everything went well. It's astounding what can happen. It's astounding what can happen. Another Brian. Brian says, "I'd love to know your take, Dr. Leslie, on these communications, power, internet issues that seem widespread. People are experiencing all kinds of bizarre things going on energy-wise. I watched the needle on my gas tank rise to full while I was driving the other day. Could not explain that, and that's the tip of the iceberg."
Very interesting, Brian. And I must say, I'm unaware of this. So give me a few more examples. I mean, I guess I'm not on social media that much. I'd love to know what all these widespread things that are happening to people. I can tune into it in your personal example and see what comes up about it. I mean, the first thing actually that pops into my head is just that it's almost like our rules of reality are shifting. right? Okay, for us, time is linear and it always moves forward. But what if it doesn't? What if it moves backwards, right? So in that, the gas tank thing made me think of that, but let's see if I tune in and see. Yeah, it's kind of what I just said. It feels like anything's possible, that you know, anything's possible, that things like the gas tank suddenly being full don't happen because we don't believe it can happen. But if we believed it could happen, then it could happen, and it would happen, because we create our reality through our beliefs. And so it just feels like the gas tank thing is you astonishing yourself with a miracle to show yourself that miracles happen. And I see he's written about his iPad as well.
Didn't lose any battery charge after 3 hours the other day. It usually does.
Yeah, really interesting, hey?
Mhm.
Actually, you know what? I say that I don't know, but I'm having a funny thing actually with my phone at the moment. That sometimes I call my father in England and he can hear me, and sometimes I call my father in England and he can't hear me.
Yeah, she'll phone me and everything's fine. Yeah.
There's no pattern to this. So I guess I am having a funny thing happen. And then, you know, sometimes I turn my phone off and on and it works, and sometimes I turn it off and on and it doesn't work. So to call England. Yeah, and your iPad didn't lose any battery charge the other day, and it should have.
Well, we
Usually,
haven't put gas in our car for 4 years.
it still works.
Yeah. Mind it's an electric car, but there's another comment here from Rosa Marie, and that'll be our last one for today. I like the saying, half of the fun is getting there. So for me, that helps me for that. In the meantime, phases, just remember to laugh and have a good time.
Yeah, half of the fun is getting there, and we do often forget to learn to enjoy the journey, don't we? But it's all about the journey, because there's no ultimate destination. We are just eternal travelers. Okay, so Brian says, yes, people are reporting issues like that with the phone. I'm not the only one.
Oh,
Oh,
aren't you lucky?
well,
Well,
thank you.
Dr. Leslie, another wonderful show.
Yes,
Our manifestations today worked out well.
yes. No show next week, folks, because I'm doing if you live anywhere in BC, I'm doing a talk in the library in Mission about what happens when you die. So I won't be able to do the show next Tuesday, but we'll be back the Tuesday after.
Yes, we will. So, folks, have a great 2 weeks until we see you then.
Bye.
Bye bye, all.